Men, what's your sad story that you don't want to tell anyone about? For a few years, I'd take drives at night just so I could pull off to the side of the road and cry. No reason in particular, just life being sort of depressing at that point. I couldn't let my friends or family see me like that. My girlfriend at the time had mentioned to me how she'd lost respect for one of her male friends for his being overly emotional about something, so I just avoided any discussions about feelings with her. Looking back, I get that she was just a crappy person. But the threat of people losing respect for you if you display emotional weakness as a man is a legitimate issue. Trust me, there are not crappy people who will understand that you go through things as a person, as a human. Story 2. Throwaway account. I'm in a spiral right now, thinking of ending it all almost every week. I'm a recovering alcoholic, living in a foreign country where I don't speak the local language. I'm trying, but it's really hard. It's been almost 4 years now, and I can't go back because there's almost nothing left for me. The only person from home I rarely talk to is my sister. Exchange texts, or she checks up on me every couple of months. Like all expats, I can't stay unless I have a job, and I'm tired of my work. I do enjoy it from time to time, but it's mentally demanding, and I feel like I'm losing all hope. I've managed to make it 10 days tops before a drink. That's the only way I can curl up and cry. I don't want to do this anymore. I wish I could be on a farm somewhere making enough to pay the rent, bills, Netflix, and all the other stuff that comes with it. But I would gladly live for less. I want to live somewhere near the coast where I can have a small diner and wake up in the morning to serve coffee, eggs, and toast to people. Make a little, spend a little. Get a dog, read a book as I go to sleep. This is the first time I've managed to write this, and it's a Tuesday morning that I started pouring whiskey into my coffee. Every day is a struggle, and it's only getting harder. I don't see light at the end of this tunnel. I have a wallpaper on my phone with a poem from the Gray. Once more to the fray, and to the last good fight I'll ever know. Live and pass away in this day. Live and pass away in this day. Story 3. I was relatively privileged growing up in that my parents were just alcoholics instead of alcoholics and users. My father went away to make more money for us, so he wasn't around as much as I wanted him to be, and now I slightly resent him and my mother for it. I was in an emotionally and mentally cruel relationship when I was in my late teens that was bad for both parties. I don't know if I grew a fear of abandonment from her or from my parents. I was pretty mediocre as a student, but ended up going to CC and then transferring and earning a full scholarship and becoming an honor student at my university. I secretly hate academic life, though. It can be terribly isolating at times, even with all the people you meet. I started doing substances and drinking alcohol when I got to college, too. I can't really tell you why I do those things. I guess to validate myself? I don't know. I'll never know why I'm like this. Now I'm 21, still in school. I sell and write crappy poetry in my free time. Not exactly depressed, but not living wouldn't be worse than constantly obsessing over every single little person that comes into my life. I'm not going to go counseling services out of fear of being sent away. I'm also never going to tell my parents. So I'm just going to keep doing whatever for now. Whatever really isn't so bad, though. Anyways, that's my little story so far. I hope it gets better, man. Story 4. I'm 16, so not a man, but whatever. I need to vent about this. I've grown up in a pretty well-off family. Mom's an architect, dad's an engineer. They spent all their money sending my 3 brothers and I to Catholic school for our entire lives. We're all at the top of our classes. Teachers love us, mostly, and we do well on tests without even trying. This worked pretty well until high school, but I'll talk about that later. Around 5th grade, I had my gay awakening and felt pretty crappy and hated myself. Also became an atheist around the same time, so I'm guilty about being an atheist despite all the money my parents put into Catholic school. Also, I thought they were homophobic, so that sucked too. Eventually, I became okay with my sexuality. Now I'm at Catholic high school and everything has taken a turn for the worst. My intense fear of failure keeps me in all my honors classes, and I feel like an idiot for not taking as many APs as I can. Never learned study skills or time management, so I'm now a solid C student and my GPA is in the toilet. I've been feeling really depressed for years and my twin brother is now going to a therapist for depression, but I'm too anxious to ask if I can go to one too. My counselor also thinks I might have undiagnosed ADD, but my parents aren't doing anything about it. My older brothers are both successful. One got into a really good private college for practically free, and the other one is taking a gap year in Germany on a foreign exchange program. My parents have started me in the college hunt as a sophomore, and I feel awful, since I know my GPA won't get me anywhere good right now. I'm so afraid of being a failure that I've considered ending myself if I don't get into a good college. I've all kept it bottled up inside because of social anxiety and fear of failure. I hate my life, and I Feel like I don't have enough agency to fix it myself, but I hate asking for help because I'll seem weak or stupid. I just play video games to ignore my problems now, and it's only making things worse. Dude, asking for help does not make you weak. In case you needed to hear that. Story 5. Probably going to be buried, but whatever. Good chance to get crap off of my chest. By all measures, I've had quite a privileged life, given that I come from a working class family. Heck, I even made it into an amazing private university. Coming from a time and place where the people at the food bank would occasionally give us more than the other people since we were so poor, I really can't complain. But my God, these past few years have been difficult. College, while I've been immensely privileged to attend, has also been utter crap. And it's not the university, it's life circumstances. During the time that I've been in college, my own health has deteriorated quite a bit. Chronic diseases are a witch, to put it mildly. This has made it incredibly difficult to manage school. And because I can't afford enough tests to get an official diagnosis, I've gone through 4 years of college with zero assistance, even though I would be entitled to it. Though reasonably, the doctor that I see and I both know that I have EDS and likely fibromyalgia, as I have virtually every symptom of both, and they both run in the family. My mom's health has also steadily gone downhill. My stepdad was hit by a car on his way to work and was lucky to survive. The doctors had given him about a 10% chance of living and not being a vegetable, but he suffers from a severe TBI. My uncle very unexpectedly passed away last year. I'm just so freaking tired of life being an uphill battle constantly. I'm tired of being in chronic pain. I cannot remember the last time that I was pain-free, excluding those times that I've had too much to drink. It just gets worse every year. And I'm a young adult with decades of life ahead of me. I have to say, I'm really not looking forward to the future. Story 6. I have emotional dependency. I confuse it for being in love. I am 22 years, and for the last 10 years, I've been going after any girl. Ugly, pretty, dumb, smart, or feminine looking. Yeah, even traps. You name it. I'm not ugly at all, but my desperation for anything that moves took a heavy hit on my self-esteem. After a good life coaching, I understood my emotional dependency comes from my parents' lack of attention during my childhood and how I need self-love if I want to stop my disorder and fear of loneliness. Currently, I'm happy being single, helping the world, and not afraid of being lonely. Anything is possible with the right mindset. I was in the same path once. I know what it feels like. Story 7. I'm 35 years old, have man melons, ADHD, depression, scars from and I wear sports garments. I've never had any friends or an actual girlfriend. The scars are my fault. I shouldn't have cut and picked my scabs. Even when I did, I should have done it in a less visible place. ADHD and depression are not my fault. Neither are the man melons. I've had them since I was a child. I exercise, but I haven't been successful with getting rid of the man melons. I don't have money for surgery. I'm so alone and I think about ending myself from time to time. When chicks did hit on me, I didn't notice because I'm not used to it happening. Besides, most of these women were smoking hot. I'm talking about skinny, in shape, and with physical features to match. What the heck would they flirt with me? Anyways, I'm just rambling because I have no one to talk to. Story 8. Male, late 40s, and I have no one in my life. I'm existing, not living. I've never been married, no kids, no girlfriend, no friends or no prospects, no irons in the fire, nothing. I'm a no-girls radar. There's no one I can call and talk to about everyday BS. I have nothing in common with my friends anymore because they're all married and have kids. They're all busy with their life and family. I'm bored a lot. I have hobbies, but I'm still empty inside. I have no vices to drive people away from me either, meaning no drama, I don't smoke, I never touched any substance. I only drink when I'm out and I rarely go out, and even then I may have 2 single drinks at the most. I'm just one of those guys. Outside of my job, I'm not needed or wanted anywhere, you know? The only interaction I have with people is at my job. Once I walk out of my office or work, I'm just existing. Story 9. Long story, but I'll try to make it as short as I can. Q. Start of high school. I attend an all-boys school. Said school has the occasional social with other all-girls schools. I met a bunch of girls at one of these events who eventually formed a friend group with myself and a couple other people. I fell for one of these girls. We dated once. She wasn't feeling it and decided we were better off as friends. She moves on, dates another guy in our friendship group. She doesn't speak to me much after that, if at all. No big deal, moved on, talked to other people. 2 years later, I get a message from her telling me that she and her boyfriend had split up and she wanted someone to vent to. On one hand, I was sad for her. And on the other, I was cheering because the guy she was dating was a massive schmuck. Anyway, she invited me around to her place. She vents, and I listened to what she has to say. Spent the entire weekend essentially rekindling the friendship we had before we had that date, and we became quite close. It got to the point in our friendship where we'd sleep in the same bed, hang out as often as we could, etc. Heck, her mother thought we were dating. When we said no, we weren't, she asked if I was gay. Nope, not that either. So on the outside to others, we essentially looked like a couple. I'd be lying if I said that I didn't hope it was true, but I never really made an effort to speak about it because it would have jeopardized something I worked hard at fixing. Over the course of 7 or so years, she'd go through some guys, get pregnant a few times, and I'd be the only person she'd come to for help. Me being the idiot I am, I was always there to help. Anyway, 1 year after I came back from a holiday, she was ecstatic for me to be coming home. Saw her the day after I got back. All was well. However, a few days later, I got a message saying they didn't want to be friends anymore. I was pretty taken aback. After so many years of friendship, she's just decidedly thrown it away. Feeling pretty sorry for myself for a while, someone messages me screen caps of stuff she'd been saying about me behind my back for years. Turns out she was a major witch, talking crap about me this entire time. So there, really. A girl used me for years, and when she was done, threw me through the curb like the last few years meant nothing. It's not all bad, though. It got better for me. I met someone at university by chance who I'm now in a stable, loving relationship with. Been with them for many years, and I plan on popping the question ASAP. We're very happy together. I love the happy ending. Story 10. After my father left, my mother and sister were very depressed. My mother spoke every night about how much she wanted her life to be over. My sister took up harming her own and almost coded on purpose with her meds. I had to pretend to enjoy life and enjoy hearing about all their issues with no one for me to talk to. I thought about ending it all often, but couldn't abandon my family like my father did. It was at this time I started working with my grandfather. He was one of the most amazing people I've ever met. Spent countless hours learning so many amazing things that only an old person who grew up fixing their own equipment could know. He was finally someone I could trust to help me become a better man in every sense of the word. It was what I wished my father could have been. As he grew older, his mind began to slip. He would go days without getting any real sleep, always worrying about small issues that most of us wouldn't even think twice about. After a series of extremely stressful events, he couldn't take it anymore. He waited till we were alone on his property, walked up to where he asked me to wait, and ended it all. I didn't see him do it directly, but I knew what he had done. I've never been so scared in my entire life, trying to hope it wasn't him, but knowing that around any tree was the person I loved so much. Finally found him just behind his favorite fountain. I had to call my own grandmother to tell her that she was a widow. I could never tell the story to anyone. My grandfather was the greatest man I ever knew. What ended him was an illness of the mind, not his own will. I can never tell the story because I won't let anyone think poorly of my grandfather. Well, at least we know. Story 11. After moving to the US 4 years ago, I've regressed so far, socially. All through my life, I was quite popular and always had friends to hang out with. Was never afraid to talk to girls that I was attracted to, etc. But since I moved to start freshman year, I didn't really make any friends till the end of junior year. Also, talking to girls? Forget it. Instead, I put more hours into video games in these last 4 years than the previous 14 in my life. It's better now, but I find myself driving for hours each night, thinking I could have done so much better and not wasted high school playing video games and instead making experiences with people that I can actually see and aren't just voices. I'm just glad that my life has been relatively easy compared to many. Story 12. Mom has had lupus since I was 4, and things really went downhill with her health around 2011 to 2012. Her kidney function declined as a result of the lupus, and she eventually needed a transplant. I was the donor, and we had our surgeries in the fall of 2016 when I was 21. My donated kidney only functioned for 2 to 3 days and had to be removed. Mom ended up in the ICU and almost passed away. I feel like I'm left with one kidney and nothing to show for it. My poor mother now does dialysis at home for 12 hours a night while still working full-time. Last fall, I transferred from a CC back home to a university 3 states away to complete my bachelor's degree. Her health and misfortune constantly impacts my mood and performance in the classroom. All I want to do is graduate so I can move back home and help her take care of herself. I feel guilty for leaving to pursue my education when I could have studied somewhere back home. Story 13. I was mistreated by a girl I know one night while at college. She ended up getting pregnant and I had to beg her to have a termination. We were sort of friends, but she always had a thing for me, something I couldn't reciprocate. Regular party after midterms, drank too much, couldn't remember much, but last thing I remember was stumbling out of a house party trying to get an Uber. Somehow I ended up at her place. I don't remember having intimacy. She said I was mostly passed out, but it was enough for her to enjoy herself. Pretty much had the shock of my life hearing that. She ended up pregnant and wanted to keep the baby at first. I felt, given the situation, I could never fight legally to prove that I was mistreated and yet somehow impregnated her, so I never told anyone. Not a close friend, not anyone. She felt the baby was a way to get us together and all that crap about she loves me. She did this for us, that I enjoyed it, etc., etc. I convinced or begged her to get a termination. I had to pay my half of that, but by the end of that termination day, I ran out of her life and avoided her like the plague. How did you convince her? Story 14. Mom passed away of cancer in 2008 and Dad passed away of a heart attack in 2015. Since then, families felt less loving and more were obligated to help you grow up because we owe your parents. Sister's always been a witch, but she's the witch who makes good choices, is about to graduate in a year, and doesn't do incredibly dumb crap like dropping out of college unannounced. Unlike me. I had my first crush in high school. She rejected my affections before accepting my buddies the following day, which has done wonders for my self-esteem. The next lucky lady in my sights got pregnant from her secret boyfriend. The one after that sort of had mental issues and basically disappeared from the face of the earth. The latest one has had more girlfriends than I. It's one thing to not have parents, but it's another to want to love and be loved by someone, only to be rejected in one form or another, time and time again. It is tiring, frustrating, and depressing. Nights are cold, and I hug my pillow in desperate bids to not pass away from the solitude. Story 15. This was when I was a little kid. There was only me, my mom, and my brother who was suffering. Dad left us because it was too much responsibility to take care of us. I loved my bro. He would always be there even in the moments when we were living with our crazy aunt and she used to hit us and locked us in a dark room. When my brother passed away, I had nothing to remember him by, except his TMNT toys that I would play with him all day. I didn't have a photo of us because when we moved to a new city, we got mugged and lost a lot of things among the boxes with photos of us. One day while I was playing with my bro's toys, I managed to open the TMNT lunchbox, and there it was. A photo of my bro, his toys, and me. I was as happy as a little kid could get. I showed it to my mom, and she also got happy. She grabbed the photo and went to make it bigger. A couple days later, my mom got back with a huge envelope. When she opened the thing, it was a giant version of the photo. Only that it was the toys and my brother. When I asked, where was I? She gave me the strip, the photo of me that was cut up, and told me this is to remember your brother, not you. I went to my room holding the cutout, went under my bed, looked at my cut of self, and started crying and kept repeating over and over again, I love you, I love you, I love you. Story 16. This started in January of 2017. I'm still dealing with the effects today. My dad cheated on Mom with a witch who took him off his meds, which caused a dispute when I ran out of the house calling 911. I went into hiding for a couple days, not wearing shoes or even having my wallet. And months and more screaming and yelling every night. My cat passed away during that time. I also failed student teaching during that time. I tried it again in the fall and failed student teaching twice. That witch my dad messed with messaged me and tried to lure me somewhere to do God knows what. My mom has gone crazy and thrown crap and yelled at me for no reason, even though I technically saved your bum that one night, Mom. I'm broke working minimum wage while trying to take classes to get a degree in absolute BS. I don't have enough money to buy a car for myself. My brother fails all his classes and won't say what's wrong with anything. My dad has been on meds since February of last year and hasn't worked since January because he's a freaking bum and won't even get a part-time job. He says he can't work because he's in anger management classes, but still, he can work in a store or something, but no, he won't swallow his freaking pride so his family doesn't suffer financially. I'm in financial hell. All my friends and family think I'm crazy and they don't know my struggles or any crap I've been through. I go to church every week and ask God, what have I done to deserve this? I live in a broken home and all of my dreams are gone. So thanks, Dad. I hope you're freaking proud of what you did. If you're enjoying the video, don't forget to hit that subscribe and like button for more videos like this. Story 17. A really close friend of mine doesn't seem to care about me anymore. We were really close. We talked to each other about our problems and fears, and we helped each other along. She helped me through some tough times as well. Then as soon as she left for uni, she just stopped talking to me. She never messages first, and when we actually do talk, she never makes an effort to hold the conversation. Whenever we happen to be back in her hometown at the same time, I will offer to meet, but always tells me it is always busy. Not even free for an hour, yet it always seems to be free to go off with other people. Feels like I got replaced by her cool new uni friends, and it makes me feel like crap. Story 18. I worked in a dog grooming shop for about 5 months as a large dog bather. As you can expect, I worked with a lot of dogs. Big pups. Anything from Malamutes to Labradors to Labradoodles. God, Labradoodles are such a pain to take care of. You get the picture. At the time, I was in a dark place, mentally. I'd been suspended from my college for having extremely poor grades, multiple attempts under my belt. I needed a pick-me-up, and this job was perfect. Every day, I'd come in, and there'd be a dozen or so dogs that just wanted to love on me for a bit. It was really wonderful. There was a Spud, a Ranger, a Wrangler, a Tuxedo, a Poodle, beautiful coat, and so on and so on. I only ever had one bad experience with a dog who was a rescue from a cruel home. Fresh rescue. I digress. I really loved this job. After the 5-month mark, my depression came back. Full force. I wasn't making enough money to afford rent. I still lived with my college roommates, and my girlfriend at the time was doing very well in school. I felt such a disappointment to them and my family, who had helped me so much just to get to school in the first place. I couldn't sleep at night, and I couldn't get up in the mornings to go to work. I lost all motivation. They called me after my 5th no-show. They gave me so much leniency. I'll always be grateful for how many chances they let me have to let me know that it was over and I wouldn't be working for them anymore. I was devastated because it was a Thursday, and that's the day that Wrangler and Monroe came in. 2 Labradoodles. They're the sweetest boys, and even though they took 5 hours total to bathe, it was so much fun, and it just made my entire week. I was excited to go on that day. It's one thing to disappoint your family and friends. To me, it's a devastating, debilitating feeling. It's another to let down a dog, a being that has unconventional and unending faith in you. I haven't seen them since. I haven't seen any of my dogs. I don't even know if they missed me that much, but I sure as hell missed them. That job gave me a lot of hope, and I squandered it. About a month later, I was committed to a mental hospital, and I'd like to say it's gone better. It hasn't, really. I miss them, man. Where people fail, dogs never will. Story 19. I was in Boy Scouts from 1st grade up until 9th grade. Dad had always been involved until about high school, and my mom started being more active. I was mistreated by one of the scoutmasters when I was in 7th grade and never told anyone. I tried to stick with it and make it to Eagle, but I just couldn't stand being around him. I saw the other scoutmasters the other day at a funeral, and they all talked about all the other scouts getting Eagle, and when they asked what rank I got to, they just stopped talking about it and didn't really seem to want to talk anymore after they remembered I didn't make it. They have no idea the reasons that I quit because I never told anyone and just keep it to myself. And live with a BSA shame of not making it to Eagle Scout. Story 20. My girlfriend is a magnet for misery. Just so many chronic illnesses that makes every day a living hell of pain and suffering for her. And on top of that, she has what has to be the worst luck I've ever seen. Just today, we had to go to the hospital to get our penicillin and an IV to treat a brand new staph infection that somehow spread throughout her entire body. Even though the nurses even used an ultrasound to find the veins, the needle missed and pumped the antibiotics straight into her muscles. She described it as feeling like acid under her skin and was crippled with pain for an hour and a half. I swear, if I didn't see her life firsthand, there's no way I could believe it. Story 21. I was mistreated for several years in my late teens. That was bad enough, but I was mistreated shortly after the cruelty ended. All the mistreatment was from women who were close to me. I haven't been able to bring myself to have intimacy since, despite numerous opportunities. I still get incredibly nervous and just internally shut down when people start talking about intimacy around me. I hate it because I'm normally a very open person, but I'm tied up in knots about it, and a lot of people just don't believe men can be mistreated. I've only told maybe 2 people I trusted about it over the years. Story 22. My life seems pretty well put together. I've done well academically, and I'm about to get my PhD. I'm in a healthy and successful marriage. I lost 80 pounds and have kept it mostly off and have a good career. However, my family life and past is a train wreck, so I just don't talk about it. Ever. My dad, who I was very close to growing up, was diagnosed with brain cancer when I was 11 and passed away a year later. I was pestered constantly from ages 11 to 15 and had no friends. My grandfather was the only grandparent I ever had and was a verbally cruel alcoholic. He only ever spoke to me to criticize me about my weight. One time when I was 10, my sister came home to tell everyone she was pregnant. The first thing my grandfather said was, "Just make sure you don't get as fat as Al Numero." My mom suffers from panic disorder and depression and was never able to provide for me. She spent all the money and assets my dad left her. She also spent all of the money my grandfather left her and me, and since he passed away when I was still a minor, it was around $60,000. She's never taken care of herself and has now suffered 2 strokes. I often have to send her money to make ends meet. She refused to go home and found a bipolar friend to take care of her. Her friend has episodes about once every 3 months and starts calling me and texting me with word salad that she's done taking care of my mom and will leave her in the middle of the night, leaving her for a few days so I'll have to go take care of her. I have 3 siblings, but they're all much older than me, 10 to 20 years, and really have no relationship with me. They weren't around when my dad was sick and never came around regularly growing up, not even for holidays. They refused to help with my mom and always tell me to do everything because I live the closest, about 4 hours away. So yeah, I don't talk about this stuff. All of you say you're not talking about this stuff, but typing it out also helps. And there are people who read this. Story 23. This isn't so much a story as just straight up attention seeking, but it's been bugging me. I've been signed off work for just over a week after seeing a doctor and being given meds for severe depression. I spoke to 3 different friends about how scared I was at the appointment and what prep I needed to do, etc. They were really helpful, but none of them have asked how it went since. The only people who know I've been home alone for 8 days are at work. Just feels bad. It's isolating enough to live alone. Plus, I thought the docs were supposed to go over counseling options at a follow-up appointment, but when I went back for that, I got passed to a student GP who didn't know I was there. So working myself up to actually getting help seems to have been a waste anyway. I don't get why these people offer help but not help at all. It's stupid. Story 24. I am 18. My mom suffers from schizophrenia ever since I was around 5. There were times when she couldn't even speak her name or mine. Things got so bad. Dad used to be in the military, so if he left the military and came back home, we would literally have no money to buy food. I took care of her my whole life. Fell in love with someone, the first person I ever trusted, who practically used me and cheated on me. That one hurt like hell. Tried to give up on life. Certain days, I was so depressed, the thought of giving up on life did strike me, and I tried. God knows I did. Fast forward a year to today. I'm doing well. Have a big exam tomorrow, mostly prepared. Plan to ace it. I'll probably get a nice college, too. Dad now has a different job, pay is good. It's better than living paycheck to paycheck. Mom is getting better. Treatment is working. Most of all, I learned to love myself in the last year. And that's the most important part. Because even some people are in their 30s and they still don't love themselves. Story 25. I had a girlfriend 5 years ago when I was around 17 years old. She was one of my classmates and I really loved her. Unfortunately, back then, I didn't know she had some issues and was bipolar, apparently. She was lying to me about many serious issues, and I was, of course, very supportive, and it emotionally drained or destroyed me. Let's not talk about her mood swings. She lied to me about fighting her mother at home every day, being mistreated by her father when she was really young, and many other serious things. Sometimes she didn't answer texts for a couple of days, and I was assuming she was dealing with bad stuff, and it hurt me even more. I was really young, and still am. And I really thought the person I loved was in danger. I couldn't let her go and just break up because I felt sorry for her. One day I even found her harming herself. There are so many things I don't even remember anymore of all the things that happened during our relationship. I also come from a good family without any problems like these, and all the stuff she was dealing with was like a new world to me, and it messed me up. And then the day came where I got to know that 90% of the things she said were just lies. I can't explain what I felt during all this time. I cried so much and even went to therapy a couple of times. 5 years later, I haven't dated anybody since then. I've become a very sensible person, and I hope to never see that horrible and mean person again. Story 26. I'm a little late to the party, but using a throwaway just in case. My wife has gone horrible since our marriage. She has terrible personal hygiene and is just a really messy person in general. She's becoming quite lazy and doesn't want to go out and have a social life, and is constantly telling me how terrible I am for not getting off work early to see her, not buying her flowers, etc. We get into fights and she will convince me that I'm always the problem. I understand that I'm not perfect by any means and that I have room to improve, but I feel like I'm trying to do better and she's only getting worse. I'm too scared to talk to anyone about it because I don't want them to know that we're having problems. My family is very against divorce, and I don't want to tell them that the reason we're getting divorced is because she has changed since our marriage. On top of this, I don't think, because of my looks and personality, that I could find anyone better than her. I will often go on drives and or walks and think about how my life would be different if I'd waited a little longer to propose, or if I'd kept dating different women, or if one day I worked up the courage to leave. Definitely should, buddy, for your own sake. Story 27. How much stress and sorrow I carry with me every day. Hate to be a screeching record, but I had a truly unpleasant childhood, and even though I've had therapy and always had friends, it doesn't erase the experiences I went through. For my health and sanity, I ended up cutting my entire family out of my life, and extenuating circumstances allowed for this to be relatively easy to do. I cannot even begin to tell you how insanely fortunate and lucky I've been. But in doing all this, I'm so very, very alone. I have my fiance and a good allotment of acquaintances and friends, but no one I can really lean on aside from my partner. He's been my everything through this, and even he's not doing too well health-wise. I've always had the ability to see the brighter side of things and keep my head in the clouds, but it's so difficult, and I'm exhausted to try and always be that guy who's exuberant and energetic and doesn't let things get him down, because I've always had to be that guy for myself. I don't want to stop being positive and happy because I love that about myself. What I really want is for all the dark, rotting places inside of me to be excised so I can be at peace. I feel hollow inside like some kind of stick marionette with a porcelain smile. One day, I won't feel like this anymore, and I keep telling myself that if I work harder, that everything will turn out at the end. But I can't see that day yet, and it's getting harder to believe in it. Oh, it's there. You just really gotta see it through. Story 28. I like being alone, but I can't help feeling lonely when I hear my friends making plans for the weekend and not including me. The saddest part is because I don't try hard enough and end up convincing myself that I don't need friends. I just want to be able to have a best friend who I can confide on a deep emotional level with and talk and do stuff we both like. Someone I can call when I'm feeling lonely or down and hang out or just talk. Someone I can rely on. Also, sometimes I feel motivated and believe in myself, like I can achieve anything. But the next day, I wake up feeling like a piece of trash that doesn't deserve to be where I am. Like, I just want to give up. Story 29. My mom was mentally unstable and always a user throughout my life and was probably for the most part pretty toxic to my life, but she was all I had. Her and my father's whole family kind of exiled her from their lives, and though she wasn't the best parent or person, I knew she loved me and my sister with every part of her she could. They were all she ever had. My dad left when I was young, and being a user with friends, her relationship never lasted. Her main redeeming quality was how unconditionally she loved my daughter. It seemed to bring a new light to her eyes that I hadn't seen in a long time. Right around the time I was 14, our lives turned to crap, and it was always a struggle after, so she stopped seeming happy until my daughter. She started developing breathing problems that always seemed to enhance when she was spiked, which I could always tell when she was having grown up around it. She had gone mad at us and went off on a bender for a few days. My older sister went and got her because she started to worry, and my mom came home at the back end of her spike, so it was crabby and unreasonable, along with her enhanced breathing problem. I was working all day as I worked split shifts, and she didn't get home until I had already gone back to work. It was a bad day at work, and I was cranky, so I hopped in the shower to cool down. She knocked on the door, and I said I was using the bathroom, but she kept knocking. Like I said, I was cranky and yelled at her and said I was in the shower. She just said, "Oh, sorry. I didn't know those would be your last words together." The breathing issues became too much, and she couldn't breathe altogether and went into cardiac arrest. Maybe 3 minutes after I yelled at her for knocking, my sister came slamming in the door telling my mom fainted, and I quickly got out and found her on the porch and she wasn't breathing. After a week in the hospital and constant family feuding, I was for the most part left with power of attorney and decided I couldn't let her suffer any longer. She always told me she didn't want to end up a vegetable as she saw her father pass away from cancer. I started to think a lot about her and realized she was basically alone her whole life. No friends, no family that cared, no real romantic loves, and she passed away as she lived. Alone. My only peace of mind is that she can't suffer anymore. Not through habits, loneliness, mental issues, no more pain. I would not wish that upon my worst enemy. Story 30. Former fiancé was mistreated and kept it from me for 3 months. It caused so many internal emotional issues she couldn't even look at me. For 3 months, I cried myself to sleep more times than I could count. Thought she hated me, etc. We broke up a month later after she told me. I don't hold any ill will toward her at all. I understand why she did it. She told me she didn't want a relationship anymore. It had nothing to do with me. We split up about 6-ish months ago and I still am not over it. I have a girlfriend. Life is good, but I'm not the same anymore and probably never will be. I've learned that not everyone recovers and lives a good life. Sometimes people are damaged and they're never the same. We don't talk anymore, and every day I think about her and wonder if she's okay. I tried my best to be there for her, but she didn't want me to be. Every day I think about everything that happened, and I hate myself for not being able to help her. I'll carry the regret to my grave. Story 31. In middle school, about the first girl I liked, I left her poems in her locker with no name but her admirer. On Valentine's Day, I brought her a bouquet, chocolates, a balloon, and a teddy bear in front of the class. I gave it to her as she silently stared at her desk. With no response and an immature mind, I went back to my desk. She then, in front of the whole class, threw everything I bought for her in the trash can. We went through middle school and she never acknowledged it, but I was nice before that, then came a very sour individual until later in high school. Boy relationships sucked before college. Another girl in high school I was really good friends with rejected me to prom because she said I was mean to her friends last year. That was after my BFF said she couldn't go to prom with me for suspension issues. Then she went with a freshman that ditched her. Story 32. I suffer from a very serious case of delusion. A little bit of background first. I have schizophrenia, thus making it hard to separate fact and fiction sometimes. I love to read books, but I have to be careful of what I read. A particular fantasy epic named The Wheel of Time changed me. I'm completely convinced that I'm the dragon reborn. A girl with supernatural vision ability came up to me and read my palm. She told me I'll only love 3 women in my life and gave clues to their identity. I found all 3 of them. I chose men, but alas, she hates me now. I also found a guy with foretelling ability and he told me my future. There are a whole lot more to my experiences, like the tavern girl. She can get any song she wants to play on the radio and meeting an old woman who introduced the Wheel of Time to me. He also claimed that in every Wheel of Time personality quiz, he always gets more rain. Here's the sad part. I pass away alone in this timeline. No Great War, no magical companions, no Messiah leader, no twins descendant. Cheyenne wins. I don't know what he's talking about. Story 33. My girlfriend and I recently broke up and I'm still pretty heartbroken about it. I know the issues where I caused the catalyst to breaking up on my side and I take responsibility for that. But during the whole exchange, she made me feel like a bad guy that wouldn't change or get better. So no matter how hard I tried to keep it together, both during the relationship and at the breakup, she had given up just like that, without even communicating with me during any of the issues or doubts she felt throughout the entirety of us being together. Ever since, I've been wondering if she was right, where maybe I was the bad guy, and it honestly breaks my heart knowing how much I've hurt her and anyone else in my past. Story 34. I low-key regret my entire last relationship. I basically had 2 women to get involved with. One lived 650 kilometers away from me. I'd really messed up problems with an ex-boyfriend who regularly stalked her and threatened both of us. The other was closer and chill and generally good fun. Being who I am, I decided to date the former. She'd likely be gone by now if I hadn't helped her through this mess, and I feel like crap for regretting that. But the entirety of that time ended me. Not knowing what would happen to her tomorrow, her constant need for attention, being separated, which I'm having a hard time with, even in a well-working relationship, all the time. Not being able to keep my gym routine going. The overall financial and physical pressure of traveling around all the time and getting out of touch with my friends. I got super depressed and thought about ending it all the time. I got isolated in my own head, and her demands of being more integrated in my emotional development didn't help either. At some point, we finally broke up and I picked up what was left of me. She had a new boyfriend very shortly after. I am, almost a year later now, still single. I have, however, met someone I really like, and I have hope. Well, if you like these stories, here's more. YouTube thinks you're gonna love this. Catch you in that video.